This ride has no drops, no loops, and no launch, and it's still the most disorienting thing you'll ever experience. To understand the scale of this deception, think about what is actually happening. You are sitting on a bench that swings a maximum of 15 degrees in either direction. That's roughly the angle of a gentle ramp. Nothing dramatic, nothing extreme, no loops, no drops, no launch. And yet, hundreds of millions of people across the world have sat in that seat and walked out, convinced they went completely upside down. By common sense, a gentle swing shouldn't fool anyone. But neuroscience says otherwise, and everything that happens inside a madhouse is the result of a precise understanding of how the human brain processes motion and how easily it can be overruled. The origins go back further than most people expect. The concept traces to the late 19th century, when a New Jersey inventor named Amariah Lake registered a patent for what he called a haunted swing. The device was simple. Visitors sat inside a room suspended from above. The room swung back and forth around them while they remained stationary. The brain, receiving conflicting signals from the eyes and the inner ear, concluded that it was the riders who were moving. The illusion was powerful enough that the first installations in 1894 drew enormous crowds. Something about losing control of your own sense of reality turned out to be deeply compelling. After that, the concept faded for decades. It resurfaced in 1996 when Dutch manufacturer Vekoma, working with the legendary Efteling theme park in the Netherlands, built the first modern madhouse. They called it Villa Volta. It was no longer a simple swinging room. It was a fully enclosed cylindrical drum with themed walls, synchronized sound, carefully programmed lighting, and two independently moving mechanical systems working in precise coordination. The result was an illusion so complete and so disorienting that Vekoma went on to install over 15 versions worldwide. But despite all the theming and technology, the core principle never changed. A madhouse is always about one thing: making your brain believe something that isn't happening. So, how does a machine that barely moves actually convince you that you're going upside down? The answer lies in two systems that the brain uses to understand its position in space, and what happens when those two systems are deliberately put into conflict. The first is the visual system. When your eyes detect that the world around you is rotating, the brain interprets this as motion of the self. This is called vection. You've experienced it without realizing it. Sitting in a stationary train while the train next to you pulls away, your brain briefly concludes that you are the one moving. The visual system is powerful, dominant, and fast. It takes very little visual motion to override other senses entirely, and crucially, it operates faster than any other sensory input the brain receives. By the time the vestibular system has processed what's happening, the eyes have already filed their report, and the brain has already made its decision. The second is the vestibular system. Deep inside your inner ear sit three fluid-filled canals, each oriented in a different plane. When your head moves, the fluid shifts, hair cells detect the change, and signals are sent to the brain about rotation and acceleration. This system is precise, but it has a critical limitation. It detects changes in motion, not constant motion. If rotation is gradual enough and sustained long enough, the fluid stabilizes, the hair cells return to rest, and the brain stops registering movement altogether. This is why you can spin in an office chair for 30 seconds, stop suddenly, and feel like the room is still moving. The vestibular system adapted to the rotation. The sudden stop felt like new motion in the opposite direction. This is exactly the vulnerability the madhouse exploits. When the ride begins, the gondola, the bench you are sitting on, starts to swing gently, just 15 degrees in each direction. Your vestibular system registers a real, genuine sensation of motion. At exactly the same time, the drum, the large cylindrical room surrounding you, begins to rotate. It is moving slowly at first, in unison with your swing. Your brain receives two matching signals. What you see and what you feel are telling the same story. Motion is registered, believed, and accepted. Then, the synchronization breaks. The gondola continues its gentle swing while the drum begins to rotate independently, gradually accelerating through its full 360-degree rotation. Your vestibular system is reporting a gentle back-and-forth movement of less than 15 degrees, but your eyes are seeing the entire room rotating fully around you. The brain is now receiving two completely contradictory signals, and in this conflict, vision wins. Almost every time. This is not a design preference. It is a documented neurological reality. When visual input and vestibular input disagree, the brain has a strong tendency to trust the eyes. Researchers have confirmed that visual motion stimulation can suppress vestibular signals entirely, a process sometimes described as visual capture. The Madhouse is built on this principle. The drum rotation is calibrated to be visually overwhelming. Every surface of the room is themed, detailed, moving. There is no fixed point of reference, no window, no horizon, nothing the eye can lock onto to re-establish stability. The brain has no anchor and no option but to accept what the visual system is reporting. The sound design reinforces this at every stage. As the drum accelerates, the audio track intensifies. Low-frequency vibrations increase. The soundscape expands and deepens. This is not simply atmosphere. It is a deliberate sensory layer added to occupy the brain's remaining processing capacity. The more sensory channels that are simultaneously overloaded, the less cognitive bandwidth remains available for the brain to question what the eyes are reporting. Engineers didn't just design a visual illusion. They designed a total sensory environment specifically calibrated to eliminate doubt. The lighting plays an equally deliberate role. As the ride progresses, illumination shifts subtly from moment to moment. Shadows move, highlights change. This continuous low-level visual noise prevents the brain from adapting to the motion of the drum. Adaptation is the mechanism the brain uses to recalibrate during sustained stimulation. The Madhouse denies it that opportunity. Every time the brain begins to settle, a new visual change resets the process. The result is that the illusion remains just as powerful at the 60th second as it was at the first. At the peak of the cycle, the drum completes a full rotation, precisely timed with the peak of the gondola's swing. The vestibular system is reporting a gentle lean. The visual system is reporting a complete inversion. The brain resolves the conflict in the only way it can. It concludes that the body has gone upside down, not the room, you. And that conclusion arrives not gradually, but suddenly, as a complete and fully formed conviction. That is the moment every rider remembers. Not a sensation of movement, a sensation of certainty. And here is what makes this engineering remarkable. The gondola never exceeds that 15-degree swing. No extreme G-forces are generated. There is no risk of injury from the motion itself. Every guest, from young children to elderly visitors, can experience the same complete disorientation in a system that is, mechanically speaking, doing almost nothing. The entire experience is generated not by the machine, but by the brain's own attempt to make sense of conflicting information. That also means the Madhouse is one of the most accessible thrill rides ever designed. Traditional coasters exclude riders based on height, health conditions, and physical tolerance for G-forces. The Madhouse excludes almost nobody. The intensity of the experience is entirely perceptual, and perception is universal. Two people sitting side by side on the same gondola, receiving identical motion inputs, can have completely different experiences depending on how strongly their individual brain weights visual input against vestibular input. Some people feel mildly tilted. Others feel fully inverted. The machine is identical for both. The difference exists entirely inside their heads. That is why the Madhouse works across every culture, every language, and every demographic. The brain's dependence on visual input to determine orientation is not learned behavior. It is biology, and it is universal. Every time you watch someone exit a madhouse confused, laughing, or reaching for the wall to steady themselves, it looks like the result of some extraordinary mechanical feat, but the machine barely moved. The real engineering happened inside their skull. Sensory, conflict, visual capture, vestibular suppression, deliberate sound design, precision lighting, all working together in a sequence calculated down to the second. To me, that is what makes the Madhouse extraordinary. Not what the ride does to your body, what it does to your brain. The fact that every single moment of that disorientation was designed in advance, tested, refined, and delivered on purpose.